This call is being recorded.
Hi, Wilkis. How are you doing? I'd just like to introduce you, or for you to introduce yourself as well.
All right.
This is Patrick with the Artispreneur Podcast, and we have Wilkis Ideology Figuereo here. Excuse me if I butchered your name. You're the owner of one of the largest and most successful audio engineering production schools in New Jersey, state of New Jersey. You're a certified audio school, and you've been practicing your skills within music production business and industry for about the past 16 years. Did I get a little bit of it? Did I get it partly right?
That's actually perfect. That's perfect right there. You
Cool.
said, yeah, that's great. So once again, my name is Wilkis Ideology Figuereo. I'm the CEO and founder of ITEC Audio Studios. We're a school for music and audio production located in the state of New Jersey. We're the only place in the state of New Jersey where we certify individuals in the Avid Pro Tools software, which is an industry standard program for recording and editing audio.
Cool. So let's get right into it and tell me, how did you begin your career path? What made you want to, learn how to produce music?
Believe it or not, as I look back at different things in your life you're exposed to, they may spark certain things, but you're not able to recognize them right away. So I'll give you a quick example of that. When I was 13 years old, I was having a hard time attending school. I was in 8th grade, and my stepfather at the time, he was in a Latin band. So, he knew that I didn't like going to school. So he was like, look, if you go to school on the weekends, I'll take you with me so you can go on this little tour that we're doing. Nothing big, just different cities like Baltimore. Sure. And in order for me to get into the nightclubs, I had to, because I was only, 13 years old, I had to be the band boy. And that meant that I had to go inside and set up all the equipment for the shows, the speakers and stuff like that. I was not interested in music at all during this time. I just did it because I liked the music and I liked being in the club. Right. Fast forward, once I got to high school, 4 years later, my last year in high school, I needed a class, a throwaway class to take. And one of my friends, he was taking this particular weird computer class, and it was about making music for computers. And I was like, hey, I'll take that class just to waste some time. And, and I took the class and I realized that I had like an aptitude for creating music. It's amazing happen because it kind of changed my life. And I was not sure. I can't really think of any other time in my life where, as kids, you say, oh, when I grow up, this is what I want to be. Mm-hmm. I really didn't have aspirations like that. But music kind of opened the doors for me. And once I began doing it, I kind of just wanted to be the best at it. So I started learning as much as I could, how to use the technology. And I was fascinated by it. And from there, that's when the passion grew.
So when did you stop being a student, I guess, and start being a teacher?
Well, you never stop being a student in this field.
Yeah.
Constantly changing. So you always have to keep learning. It's a lifelong learning process. And if you stop learning, somebody else is just going to become better than you. So you have to always, learn the new things, keep up with the time. So I'm constantly reading, meeting new people. One of the most important things in the world is, before I started making music, there's a whole industry of people who were doing music and they were using different technologies, like tape machines and stuff like that, which I didn't have the opportunity to really work and cut tape and work in a studio in that form. I kind of came in when computers were beginning to take over recording studios. So that transition was a pretty easy one for me.
Yeah, perfect timing.
And I was telling people I was one of the few people that I was using computers to make music. And a lot of my other friends were using like drum machines, like the MPC and things of that nature. And I was telling people, man, the future is computers. And they were looking at me like I was crazy, like software.
That's right. I guess who's crazy now, right?
Exactly. So I kind of surpassed a lot of those guys in the production aspect of it. But really, I started doing music for that. And I was in a hip hop group. So that was kind of the driving force behind what I wanted to do. That was my passion. Mm-hmm. So I was the producer of the group and one of the MCs in the group. And from there, I just wanted to experiment and grow. And I had other people that wanted me to create different types of music. And I just started networking and meeting individuals, and it became kind of a business for me while I was in college. I would kind of use that as supplemental income while I was going to school.
So how did you go about doing that? Did you sell your beats to different artists? You helped create songs for them? Was it for independent ones
Yes,
or?
yes, I did. I met a guy when I was in college by the name of Sim Walker. He was uh, he was minoring in music and he was majoring in business. And he walked into the studio when I was working on music, and through him I was able to land some placements with different artists. And so what happened was he kind of inspired me as a producer overall to want to pursue music in the business. And I just started meeting different people, artists that would want to work on music. And then when I was on campus, I set up my equipment and I would charge other students to record. That was one of the beginning ways that I was like, well, I could make some quick money doing this rather than just getting a regular job working in the cafeteria on campus.
Right.
People gonna come to my studio and pay me to record songs. And my thing was like, you know, it wasn't a lot of money. It was like $60 a song.
Right.
Job was, if I can finish this song in a half an hour, I'm gonna make $60 in a half hour. So I'm like, doctors are making this kind of money. So that's like when I looked at it. So
Yeah.
that's my goal. And you know, you're gonna have some kids who are young who are gonna look at you and be like, oh, they just want, you know, they want to go into your room and just waste time. And I was always business about what I wanted to do. Was I was like, look, it costs a lot of money for me to invest and buy all this equipment. So if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to, you know, you got to pay. I can't do this for free. So I was business minded right from the very beginning because I knew I needed money to buy more equipment. And now it's, you know, now it's easier. It's cheaper for you to make music. You need just really a computer and a computer program. You don't need all the components that we needed when I first started, like synthesizers and things of that nature.
Right. So that leads me to two questions. The first is how do you go about being a business person when you're starting your artist career and you know you have lots of people who want you to, you know, give you freebies without any promise of anything in the future?
All right. One of the funniest examples that I can give you, and everybody's going to laugh when they hear this, because you get a lot of people say, look, man, you know, I'll help you out when I get on. And I'm going to talk about it in a second. So what happens is this. I always tell people, if I go into, you know, a music store, Guitar Center or Sam Ash, where they sell music equipment, and I go there and I say, look, I'm going to be a successful producer. Can you guys give me all this equipment for free? I'll pay you guys once I'm successful. What do you think will happen to me?
They'll laugh in your face.
They're going to laugh in my face, but they will call the cops on me and run me out of the store.
That's it.
This is the same concept that a lot of artists, you know, they come to the studio and they say, hey man, can you give me your beats for free? Can you record me for free? You know, the biggest thing is if you're a producer, you know, and you want to make money, you want to do this for a living, you have to support the industry. And what that means is this, you know, there's a lot of young people out there who have access to the technology and they put their beats online for free because they want somebody just rap on their beats, or even so, they put the beats online for like $10, which is very cheap.
Right.
If you want to make a living doing this, you got to add value to what it is that you do as a producer. Okay. You know, doesn't mean you're going to charge $40,000 a track. You know, you charge a couple $100 for the track. You're a teenager. If you can sell 5 tracks a week and you charge $100 for a track, you're making $500 a week as a teenager. You make music. That's one thing. And the other thing is this: if you believe in an artist and you believe in the music that they're doing and you want to work with the artist, then you know you can go 50-50. You know, you can say, okay, I'll give you the music, but you have to pay me for the recording. Like there's something out of it, because what happens is, you know, if you do music for an artist, right, and they hear them on your tracks and they get a deal, we call that derivatives. That's a derivative. Because of the music that you did for this artist, they were able to secure a record deal, or maybe they didn't secure a record deal. Maybe that song got them to get a part in the music or get a tour. You're not getting anything from that. So if you're going to work for free for somebody, you got to do contracts where you're compensated for other things, right? We call those derivatives. Okay. So if they hear somebody's song and say, we like this kid, but we want to do work with them and sign them and just use our own music, they don't have to use you as a producer. So the producer's usually left out, unless you have some artist who's loyal and they're going to, you know, come back. And, you know, like I always use the example of Drake and that guy 40. Drake was very loyal and using him as a producer. And the hit records that he got, he still works with them, even though he works with other artists. But that's very rare that that's going to happen. But let's say you don't sell millions of records. Let's say your music goes on a tour and this person is making money from the tour. As a producer, you're getting anything from that. So what are you going to get up front? And if nothing happens with the music, then what do you get out of it? It was a time wasted, or that you gain experience? You got to look at what you're willing to give up. And like I said, if you want to do this as a career, you want your parents to take it serious, be like, wait, you want to pursue music as a career, you got to understand the business aspect and treat it like this is how you make a living.
Right.
So that's the big thing right there.
Okay. Well, I guess, and the second part of that question was, what are the best tools for artists to make a living these days then, if they're going to be a producer? You specialize in Pro Tools and Logic. Why those tools? Are there any other tools that people use, can use, should use? What do you need to start up, I guess?
That's a great question. So when I first started making music, I was using this program called Digital Performer. And that program is still around. It's made by a company called Marco the Unicorn. I no longer use it because the tools have changed. So what is the best tool for you to use? The best tool for you to use is the tool that's going to inspire you and allow you to be as creative as you can. Now, if you're going to be working in a studio, or you're going to be working with an artist in their home studio, whatever the case may be, you should be familiar with different tools. Pro Tools is the industry standard. So no matter what recording studio you go to, you have to be familiar, because sometimes, me personally, sometimes I'm brought into situations where I may not be the producer, I may be the engineer.
Right.
And so if I'm going to a studio and they want me to run a session because of my expertise, because I'm familiar with Pro Tools, that will be the big difference from you.
Just a quick segue. What is the difference between being a producer and an engineer? Okay,
so a producer is somebody, a music producer is somebody who creates the music. He's a person, it's almost like a songwriter, but he's like a composer. He puts the beats together, the melodies, and things of that nature. Sometimes a producer can do all those things, or a producer can bring in musicians to play ideas. So you can be somebody who, you have a song, you have a sample, and you bring a piano player and you tell them, this is what I want you to play. So a producer is like the brain behind the music. That's what a producer does, Like Diddy was a big producer, but he didn't really have any musical talent, but he was able to put ideas together,
right.
through the environment. So there's different levels. So that's what a producer does. An engineer is somebody, or a mixing engineer, somebody who takes the person who can record the song could be an engineer, right? And it's somebody who does sound design, who takes the idea of the producer and enhances it and adds a whole bunch of different tricks to make sure sonically it sounds amazing. So that's what an engineer does. And there's a lot of guys in the music industry who I call them the big mix engineers that make a lot of money. They mix all the big albums. So one of the things that a lot of people suffer these days is that, when I was growing up, you would buy a CD or a tape, and I used to read through the credits and see who did what. A lot of young people these days don't do that anymore because music is digital. They get, iTunes or Spotify. So they don't get an opportunity to read like who produced, where was the mix and master, who did the mixing. So somebody who does that. And then you have other individuals who do tuning, for like singers, vocal tuning. You're bringing in somebody, a specialist who tunes vocals. So there's different levels in this industry. If you learn the technology, you can make a living.
Okay, so where do you see the industry going in the future? We have all these streaming services. Recorded music went from the physical unit to an online one to now streaming to who knows what's going to be in the future. What do you see the future of the recorded music industry going?
Well, recorded music industry has been changing. The biggest thing is the streaming services are good for the consumer, and it's in a way where the consumer themselves can pay $15 a month and have access to unlimited music. For them, is a good thing. It's a bad thing for artists, and I'll tell you why. Okay, because they are not paying artists at a great rate when it comes to streaming. right? And
Right.
streaming is really the answer to downloads. They did that to offset people from downloading, because it's a lot quicker for you to stream a song from Spotify than it would take for you to find the link online and then download it and put it on your MP3 device or a CD to listen to it, when you could just go to the app and access the music. So they've been pushing that for a long time. So the record labels charge licensing fees to these companies to use the music. So what happens is, if there's let's use Sony. Sony is a big company. So Sony owns a big catalog of music. So because they own the publishing to the music, Spotify can contact Sony and say, look, we want to stream let's say Michael Jackson album, right?
Mhm.
Thriller, we want to put it on Spotify. So Sony can say, well, I want 20 million for you guys to put that on Spotify. The artist doesn't make 20 million. It's the publishing company that makes the money from that, the licensing fees. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a big difference. Now, if you control your publishing, it's a big deal for you, but you got to have some type of name so you'll be able to do exclusive deals. That's why you have all these different services, and you'll say, hey, I'm releasing this exclusively through Tidal or something like that. Because
Right.
it's paying for that exclusivity, so they can release that first. So that's how artists are making money. Now, independent artists, streaming doesn't really help them because they don't have a big following. So independent artists, they can make money really by, and it's hard, it's really by creating awareness, doing shows. So the streaming becomes almost like a promotional tool for independent artists. But they
Right.
make most of the money by organizing their own shows on their own tours and selling merchandise. That's how artists are going to make money, independent artists. But it's very hard if you don't have a name, because a lot of people are not going to pay to go see an artist that they don't know. But if you can get yourself on a tour that can generate some money, you can do that.
And so, what do you think about the industry as a whole? You just talked a little bit about performing. Do you think that's the new way? Do you think we haven't found a way to really monetize these independent artists? Is there a way to, is there a PR approach maybe to get every artist to become an influencer? Do you see any wider industry kind of solutions or some things in the future that you'd be looking out for?
Well, there's a whole host of so-called independent artists that exist, and there are PR firms that kind of make them put them in our faces every day. So that costs a lot of money. So if you don't have backing, it's going to be very tough for you to just be a kid. Now, on the other side of things, we have all the tools for promotion that we have access to. Like YouTube, right? Social media and things of that nature. If you utilize those things right, you got to figure out what your niche is and who your audience is. Now, the biggest thing is we need to support these artists. Our local artists need to be supported, and we need to support their music. When music is released, that's one of the things I try to tell young people, like, hey, I want to put my song on SoundCloud. That's fine and dandy, but why don't you sell it on SoundCloud or sell it on iTunes? Or,
Mm-hmm.
have somebody, if they like your music and they want you to make more music, they should support it. They should pay for it, because that's going to finance what you're trying to do. And that's one of the things that I tell a lot of young people that I come across. I say, look, you want to make music, you need to support music. And album sales, if you're streaming, you're not making album sales. It's just the reality. You're not moving stuff off the shelf if you're streaming. It's just
Right.
so. So if you're not doing that, when you do a show, as an independent artist, you may go and do a show for free, but you can have somebody set up a table with your music. You can be ready. Somebody that's there likes your music and say, hey, how can I get this? You can say, hey, look, I'm selling a CD here right now, and you can make some money doing that. So you figured if you all the costs, you cover all the costs for the making of your album, and you can sell, you sell 10,000 copies independently at $10 a pop, you just made $100,000. So if you look at formula like that, you got to think big in order to do this. And a lot of artists have done that before. Nelly was one of those guys that was selling country grammar. He sold it independently first before he got a deal.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I guess I have two questions regarding creation of the music. So first, how much should a person budget to create a full length maybe album or an EP, or just to get a professional song recorded? How much does someone have in the back of mind to budget in to complete the process? What's that process like, and how does someone go about distributing it, whether it's streaming or some way to sell it, via iTunes or another platform?
All right, so check it out. So budgeting is all about the individual and what you're trying to do. If there's a budget, if there's no budget, you got to figure out how you're going to cut costs. Now, if you want to create something that is competitive sonically with what everybody else is doing on the radio, then you're going to have to invest some money if you want to do a full-length album or if you want to do an EP. Unless you meet people and you surround with talented individuals that are coming up, right? And they're going to help you in that direction. If you meet an upcoming producer, or you meet an upcoming engineer, a kid who's learning and has talent, because kids have a lot of time to work on this stuff. And then be a professional, you can get some good stuff sounding. You just got to know what you want to go for. On the second hand, it's all about strategy when you're doing marketing. If you want to do marketing yourself, you could start marketing with, if you know 100 people, that's the first target you want to go after when it comes to it, to selling your album. Now, distribution, you can put it on any of the online stores if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to put it on iTunes, because that's what people use. Or you can simply say, I'm going to do it through my website and cut the middleman out and charge people directly for the product. Because you're going to take a hit, when you put in any of the other online stores. It's just a fact.
Right.
You pay a fee and they'll put it up there. It's called digital distribution, and they'll put it out there. The marketing campaign is something that you might want to invest in. Try to blast it as much as you can to get it in people's faces. You can start with the first 100 people that you know, and hopefully they'll share it, and you take it from there. But it's all about being able to be heard, and people have to hear your music, and constantly being in, and people got to see you. So, a lot of people do it from behind the computer, and that's cool. But ultimately, you want to go and do shows. You have to go do performances. People got to know who you are. They got to see you and hear your music. So that's important.
Cool. And I guess the last question before we'll cut off this recording is, what's the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your life and your years' experience in the music industry? And what would you like to pass on to someone just getting into the business?
I'll give you a couple of things. The first thing is that networking and how you relate to people is very important on all levels. Whoever you meet, you come across. It's always important for you to be a good person and try to do business the right way, because you don't want to get a bad reputation working in the industry. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, do not be afraid to put in the work. It doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes one thing, you may be successful, on one thing, but you have to figure out how you measure success. Some people measure success because they drive a fancy car, but some people measure success, I want to be able to pay my phone bill by doing music. You got to start at different levels, what it is that you want to do. And because one thing is working at one time, you always got to plan for the next thing, because if that dies out, you got to be able to sustain yourself other ways. So having multiple revenue streams is highly important in the music industry. That's why you see a lot of artists doing film and doing, commercials, things of that nature, because they're trying to create multiple revenue streams.
Got it. Thank you, Wilkis Ideology Figuereo, owner of ITEC Audio Production Services out in New Jersey. You can check them out, www.itecaudio.com, ITEC audio.com. And pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for your wisdom, and looking forward to getting some responses.
Great, man. I appreciate it. And as soon as you put it up, let me know so I can share it with my audience, and we take it from there.
100%. Take care.
You have a good one.
You too. Bye.